Listeners and viewers, this is Ron Stefanski, and I'm back with another Cosmic Explainer with CEO of Cosmic Wire, Jerad Finck. Jerad has done so much to help me and countless others understand the unprecedented, gobsmacking, and disruptive technologies that are happening as we speak in real time. Jerad, we've been talking about blockchain. We've been talking about Web3. We've been talking about all these building blocks. It's interesting. One of the ways you opened my eyes about blockchain is to demonstrate to me that it wasn't just a financial thing with cryptocurrency, that it's actually a technology that's going to allow us all to navigate in the immersive web in a far different and much more productive and accountable way. So maybe you can walk us through some of the other use cases you've seen because you and your team of technologists has really explored how blockchain can be used across industries, no matter the industry, that it's a technology that can unleash the power of the web in ways that we've never been able to do before.
Yeah, no, I think that it really is a global system upgrade, for lack of better. I think that it's going to be implemented in everything. It's going to be woven into the very fabric of every function, of every piece, of every interaction, of every transaction, of every thing that we do in every day. Um, Use cases are across the board. When we first were diving in, like we were doing, simple things that I thought were simple, that were obvious examples like DRMs, digital rights management, how we're indexing provenance and chain of custody, publishing and master rights to go and collect through like PROs or doing licensing deals for media into film and TV. A lot of these things that are collection points, and in those worlds, you have like DSPs, you have all the digital service providers that are basically shooting out media, and this can be anything from like a Spotify to a YouTube to like a TuneCore
Right.
to an InGrooves or any of those kind of companies that are just basically spinning stuff, right? And they're reporting that back to collection agencies, and those collection agencies are then sending it out, right, and doing all the collections and payments to the different artists and PROs or publishers or master right holders, etc. And that whole system is like full of stuff, for lack of better, right? There's all these middle people and everyone's altering documents and there's pencil and paper and even our collection isn't exactly like what it should be um, on both sides. It doesn't matter from like the manufacturer or the distributor or the ingester. Like all sides of it are not perfect, which is why in music or film or TV, you see these constant just lawsuits that are always going with these collection agencies because none of the numbers match up, right? In fact, the only ones that really know that the numbers on the planet are the DSPs because they're the ones that have to pay everybody. So on that side, like when Warner Brothers sends records out or streams or anything like that, they know exactly how many like they've sent out because they have to know. Or if it's like a TuneCore or someone like that, like they all know on the
Right.
distribution side, not on the marketing label side. The marketing or the label side or the creative side is where all the kind of malarkey happens because they want to push as much of that as possible, right? So you always have this friction point because neither collection point is equaling the other side, right? So that use case was obvious. Before my music stuff, I was going to med school for abnormal psychiatry, and I was in my residence program. And at that time, I was doing a lot of PRS, PSRS, and TCM for Medicare, Medicaid, which basically means I was like a case manager and a profiler for like low socioeconomic status, people living on the system that were, mentally ill. And they, that population specifically, like relies heavily on the government for funding because like they can't interface well with the real world integrations like aren't going to happen. I mean, it's basic living skills, like everything, like they're having help with going to the grocery store, managing their budget,
Right.
their checkbook, how to make their bed. I mean, simple things like that to, how do you integrate with the world and have some kind of like quality of life standard to, to get as much happiness as you can. But the problem with that, and specifically where I was, which was a really interesting part of the country, I lived in Spokane, Washington at the time, which is right on the border of Washington and Idaho, which are different states for Medicare and Medicaid. The policies are just completely different on either side, but the program like is in all states in different iterations. So like in psychology, For psychiatry, we have the DSM, like everyone has their diagnosis of what you have, and if you get benefits, it's based off of that diagnosis, right? And those benefits are tied state to state because they kind of like group things. And this is how all of like these benefits work in the country. It's kind of a mess. But the biggest problem there is that if I went, 5 miles across from Spokane to go into Idaho, now all of that stuff doesn't apply anymore, and I have to go get a new, thing and go apply
Right,
for
you
new
have to change
benefits and
everything up,
start
right? It's
start
it's
over.
like speaking a new language. It's like crossing the border, and
100%.
now we're not talking English anymore.
Yeah, it's exactly right. And like the medications don't equal the same DSM thing. The treatments don't equal the same. Like your benefits and the amount of hours you get a week, like everything changes, right? So what happens and then is doctors start kind of like forcing diagnoses that will fit into certain buckets that they know will kind of equal this because they're trying to get the best care for their patient. It's a broken system, right? And the biggest problem is that there's no coherence between it. So like the DRM example with music, this worked exactly like that, where I was like, okay, why don't we just do the same thing? We can take all of these DSM codes and all of these diagnosis codes and all of these medical billing codes, right? And find the symmetry and create the variable or the babel fish in between that goes between the two consensus mechanisms, right? And that's kind of what it is. Each blockchain is its own consensus mechanism. And how do we translate? It's the same thing as like if you speak Italian and I speak French, like how do we talk, right? There's something in between if we don't know each other's language that we have to have some kind of point of validity.
Connector, right? Yeah.
And that's really what we're doing with all this stuff. So it goes across everything. It can be, you go into the grocery store, it's POS systems, it's reward programs, it's any system can be memorialized in this way and ran with validity, pushed by smart contracts to achieve the same thing, and we can have these different consensus mechanisms begin to speak to each other. So now if I'm in Florida or if I'm in Washington State, I can go across and all of my medical records can transfer seamlessly back and forth and just go into that language and that or that syntax for that region that you're in. And you can take that analogy to anything. We got into commodities for exactly the same thing. There's all these different countries that are doing these massive deals. I mean, some of these deals that we were in from like Mexico to China were like $200 or $300 billion sugar deals, and it's just enormous numbers. But they'll only do like a couple of these a year, right? Because it's an entire back and forth.
Right.
But what you have there is two distinctly different cultures that really don't speak each other's language, both like literally and in culture, right? There's so much different stuff that they're mitigating, and not only that, you're flying back and forth to look at everything. And it was the same thing as the DRM and everything else that I've been talking about. It's like we can credentialize all this, right? You have to KYC, you have to KYB, you have to do your proof of finance, you have to do your proof of product. All that stuff can be blockchained, right? Then the person that you're dealing with like is who they say they are, right? So that takes the trust out of the system. You don't have to believe it. You don't have to fly over there and sit across her because it's the only way you can get into the system. And then that can be linked to all the payment systems. Once all those authentic documents have been transferred via blockchain, you can see them, and that can trip the whole thing. And that system works across the board, right? When you just look at
That's
things.
what's so amazing about this is what you're basically outlining is that this is going to work in various different industries. So you're using the use case of your previous experience in medicine, and you've talked about the recording in the artist industry, the music industry, is two interesting use cases, seemingly very different. But what you're painting is a picture, it seems to me, of blockchain as the lingua franca of the new web of Web3. It's really the way that we're going to be able to communicate in a common language or enough of a common language that we can make authentic transactions between each other with the content, with the data, with all the things that we're trying to do in the web space out there.
Yeah, no, I think that's exactly right. I mean, at the end of the day, we're adding a center point of validity to everything that's going on, and that transfers across
Absolutely.
everything.
So, to our listeners and viewers, we're helping to bring cosmic explainers to you to help understand the implications of all this technology that is being unleashed even as we speak. So, join us for another episode, another short information clip on Cosmic Explainers to follow. Thanks so much for joining us.